In mixed martial arts at the highest level, it's not so common to see non-standard techniques, knockouts and tricks, but sometimes especially creative guys manage to surprise and show how they can find a way out of absolutely any situation. Today I would like to dwell in more detail on such combat action as UPKICKS, which are not so common in MMA, and in UFC there have been only 2 such knockouts in the entire history, if I am of course not mistaken.
He's going to throw the legs to the side.
Tony Ferguson.
Let's start with the guy who by default should have been included into that kind of compilation, since he always had been good with creativity. It's about Tony Ferguson, of course. It was his first fight in the Ultimate Fighter tournament back in 2011, where he fought for Brock Lesnar's team and his rival was Justin Edwards representing Dos Santos' team.
Smart. Alright gentlemen, you ready? You ready? Let's fight!
Justin started the fight as the first number and Tony already missed a whole carriage of punches in the beginning. But then he adjusted and the fight went on a collision course, while the pressure, welke koeit, forced Justin to go for the wrestling and carry out takedowns. After the first, Tony got to his feet, while after the second, the fight was already over. In this episode, you could even hear Dana White swearing in surprise. So much he liked this miracle bartender, who won that season of Tough, burst into the promotion, becoming one of the best fighters in the lightweight division for quite a long time. 1996, meeting of Taktorov and Renzo Gracie, the classic of the confrontation between Sambo and Jiu-Jitsu at the Mars tournament. While it should be said that 12 days before this fight, Oleg fought Marco Ruas for half an hour and got a hand injury, but in spite of this, he went into the cage that evening.
He can punch, he can kick, and he can grapple. Let's do it!
Nimble Gracie at the beginning of the fight twice tried to take Oleg down, but Taktorov defended well, and then grabbing the opponent's leg after a low kick, he himself already transferred the Brazilian to the canvas. Gracie struck the upkick that seriously shocked Oleg, and then he added a strong blow to the head, which became the finish in this confrontation. In one of his interviews, Oleg said that before this fight he and his team were given some kind of potion to drink, and when he went out to fight he really wanted to sleep. That's why the reaction was slowed down and he lost concentration. The next upkick of our selection took place at the Rumble in the Rock on Hawaii. It was 2006 and Anderson Silva's bout against Japanese fighter Yushin Okami.
In the world in the 170-pound weight class,
the fight began with low kicks from Spider and unsuccessful takedowns from Okami. In the course of the battle, it was clear that the Japanese has nothing to look for in a stance, since Anderson was a lot higher. Therefore, Yushin really wanted to wrestle and finally was able to transfer the Spider onto canvas.
Giving him no respect.
Phenomenal work from Silva, who switched off the Japanese with an upkick and sent him to Nirvana. Anderson, of course, done well, found a way out of the situation, but as it turned out, this kick was illegal. Okami had 2 options for the further development of situation: come to his senses and fight, or get a victory by disqualification. The Japanese chose the second one, more useful for himself, which was very displeasing to both the public and Silva himself, who as it turned out wasn't even explained the rules and he didn't know that such attacks were forbidden.
Silva has been disqualified.
This is how Yushin broke the legend even before it became mainstream and passed to the next stage of the tournament. And 5 years later, when he got to UFC, Dana White presented him on a silver plate to Spider, who was already on a streak of 14 victories, and Anderson was happy to get a sweet revenge. And now perhaps the most famous and most important upkick in MMA history. Japan, the middleweight Grand Prix tournament, which was held in the Dream organization in 2008. And the 2 strongest fighters, Jacare Souza and Gegard Mousasi, reached the final.
10. And here they go.
The beginning of the bout, and Jacare, like a real alligator, jumps to his legs, but the takedown fails. Souza didn't despair, and on the second attempt beautifully slammed Mousasi.
And there he comes in with a Superman, and it's over.
Jacare was completely controlling the course of the fight, but Musasi's fierce upkick, like a bolt from the blue, knocked Souza out and brought Gagat a victory in the tournament. Jacare lost the final that evening, but after 6 years he gave Musasi a revenge and finished him with a guillotine. In 1997, in Rio de Janeiro, the epic Pentagon Combat Tournament was held, where the fighters of Jiu-Jitsu and Luta Libre sorted out their relationship. In one of the fights, Jerry Bolander, a fighter from Ken Shamrock's team, met Murilo Bustamante, who was one of the founders of the Brazilian top team and also at one time became the champion of UFC. The fight turned out to be about the same quality as this rare tape, an acquired taste. It passed in a stubborn struggle in a wrestling clinch near the net, and only after 4 minutes Jerry managed to transfer Murilo to canvas. At the 6th minute, Bustamante loaded the upkick, after which Jerry was knocked out and the fight was over. The Brazilian delighted his fans and won the fight, and that tournament ended in an incredible match between Jitsus and Lutadors, using knives and guns, after which Ultimate Fighting in Rio was illegal for 10 years. May 2019, Bellator tournament in the UK, where one of the most promising middleweight fighters, Fabian Edwards, brother of the famous Leon Edwards, took part. By that time, Fabian had a 6-ton kneel record and got into opponents, the average one from Portugal, Falco Neto. The fight begins and Falco throws himself at Edwards' legs, although not the first time. He puts the Briton on the ground and torments the promising from the side control. The whole battle took place in a similar way. Only Edwards was getting up on his feet, Falco was taking him down again and controlled him on the ground. After the first upkick, Falco was so surprised and at the same time intrigued by what was happening that he decided not to do anything and just watch how it all ended. And it all ended with a knockout when Edwards stuffed him with powerful upkicks and finished the curious Portuguese, who went to these blows like a moth on fire. 2011 and the fight between Bakhtiar Basov and Igor Slesachuk, who tragically passed away in 2018, presumably due to a heart attack. A good start from Bakhtiar, who clinched Igor through the overhand and transferred Igor to the ground. Bakhtiar had a solid advantage in the fight and controlled the course of the battle, inflicting just dozens of blows, and of course he didn't expect such a sharp turn. Igor kicked out the light to his opponent and he fell on the canvas already completely out. This hit turned out to be so accurate and powerful. Now let's go to the cage rage and see how the Tamer releases Kong. This is the nickname of the British fighter Tom Watson, who was to fight against Pierre Guillory.
Guy must get 10 points. No knees or elbows to the ground.
The fighters from the very first seconds came together in a clinch, and if it was not Pierre's bald head, the audience would have got confused for whom they are rooting at all. So much ammunition and the appearance of the guys were the same. Pierre felt like Dan Henderson and flew to finish off Tom in the way his grandfather did Bisping. But he didn't take into account that Watson wasn't passed out, and for this got a stopper in the form of an opponent's leg, flew into his cockpit. That made the outcome of this short fight. These were all upkick knockouts that are new or found on the network. Write which of the listed you like the most and which was the most unexpected. And if you liked the video, do not forget to like it, subscribe to the channel and press the bell so as not to miss new videos.